Hello everybody, and welcome back to Gilded Shadows. Today we're starting Caleb's route, so we're continuing with our Endgame boys today. And yeah, should be in for a fun time of arguing with Caleb. I'm excited. It's gonna be good. He got me, gave me some hints as to how his route's gonna go last time. I saw some sparks going between him and Morgan. So yeah. Excited to see how that's going to develop this time around. So, we're at our first choice with him, and the traits I've got for Caleb for this is confident, stubborn, and analytical. So there you go. Now, we do run into Caleb at the fountain scene, so we need to squeeze past the crowd as quickly as possible. So we're going to skip a little bit and then stop abruptly at some point. Okay, this is probably a good point. You know, Rory's attacking us. You know the drill. I tried to pull my hand away. I clawed at him, but couldn't pry my wrist from his hand. What was happening? Why was this happening? Let go! Help! I planted my feet on the ground, doing my best to stop him from dragging me towards that stupid fountain. Even as I looked around at the crowd, begging for help, everyone simply stared as if they weren't sure if I actually needed them to intervene. Or as if this was, indeed, all just a performance.
It's time to break out, to break away, to break everything. This city, this false sky, to break it all.
The man was still muttering, completely ignoring my frantic attempts to get away. As he stepped up on the fountain's edge, clearly intending to drag me in there with him, I braced one foot against the wall of the basin and yanked back as hard as I could. Let go! My head throbbed painfully. There was a sudden crack, the shattering and crunching of glass as the tall sculpture that was the centerpiece of the fountain began to topple towards us. There were gasps, screams, the sound of the crowd scattering. Horns blared as they split across the street. I was frozen in fear as I watched the heavy glass structure tilt towards me. There's our boy of the hour. Move! Someone grabbed me and pulled me to the side as the sculpture thundered through the air where I had been and shattered across the pavement. Both of us hit the ground, but my fall was somewhat cushioned by him. At the very least, my face was mashed into his chest. How scandalous. One of my knees smacked the pavement pretty hard, but it was better than having my head crushed by the sculpture, which now lay in millions of sparkling pieces around us. For a moment, I was too stunned to move. But the man who'd grabbed me was on his feet and dragging me away from the fountain. Everything was a blur of movement. There were sirens and more shouts. Guess someone called the authorities. The thought flitted faintly through my mind as we fled. I had no idea what happened to Fountain Guy, or really anything else. There he is! Before I knew it, I was standing in an alley alone with an unfamiliar man. He had his back to one wall as he looked out, apparently watching whatever was going on out there.
He got away.
I was shaking, and for a moment I simply clenched my hands together, staring at him, but I finally managed to find my voice. Thank you? For pulling me out of the way, I mean. The man turned towards me, scowling as he gave me a once-over.
I wasn't in the mood to watch someone die.
Hopefully you're never in the mood for that. The scowl deepened. He didn't seem much for jokes. I started to move around him, curious about the sounds coming from outside. There was definitely quite the commotion back there. The man grabbed my arm, not letting me pass.
Wait. You shouldn't go out there.
Okay, and finally, this time, we can say I need to go home, and you'll be a nice gentleman and take me there, won't you, Cale? Why not? I need to get home. I can't exactly hide in the alley forever, even if you're standing sentry for me. Which, by the way, I don't think you can do that forever either. Though I suppose I appreciate the sentiment. The scowl softened into a somewhat less annoyed look. It was kind of nice to know he had at least two modes, irritated and slightly less so. Dang.
I don't think it's wise to step back out in the open. The man from the fountain ran before the authorities could catch him.
I suppose that's not shocking.
Considering he is an Esper, no.
If If that's true, the safety department will have trouble catching him on their own. Though it wasn't like we had a reason to believe he was actually dangerous. He hadn't hurt me, just scared the life out of me.
Another reason for you to stay out of sight. He fixated on you straight away, even though you were at the back of the crowd.
I shivered at the memory of those strange eyes staring right at me, like they could see through me. Don't remind me. If the sculpture hadn't fallen when it did...
That certainly was convenient.
I shifted uncomfortably, dropping my gaze to the ground. Convenient. Yes. Destruction of public property was not something I wanted on my record. If everyone believed it was a convenient happenstance, that was definitely better for me. It was also terrifying. Thank you again, by the way. I completely froze up when I saw that thing falling towards me. I didn't catch your name.
It's Cale. You should be able to get back to your house by sticking to these back alleys, correct?
I think so. Why? He was silent a moment, frowning as he stared out at the fountain and whatever was happening there.
Maybe I should walk with you. At least part of the way.
I don't think I need an escort. I trailed off when he frowned again. Okay! But I guess it would be nice to have one? I didn't really know Caleb either, but at the very least, he'd saved me from having my head cracked open by a glass sculpture. I love that both rooks, both Caleb and Jack, have walked Morgan home after this situation. It's funny. His presence would probably somewhat mitigate the paranoia of being attacked from the shadows by a delusional Esper. Though I didn't know what sort of help Caleb would be if I was attacked by another Esper.
I have nothing better to do right now, so lead the way.
So if he had something better to do, he wouldn't offer to help? Mm-hmm. Instead of questioning that, I nodded and started cautiously towards the other end of the alley, checking furtively for anyone else lurking nearby before I turned towards home. Caleb didn't walk at my side at first, just a few steps behind me. A quiet but constant presence that somehow reassured me a little simply by virtue of being there. Still, I was a bit curious about him, and with him behind me, there wasn't much opportunity for conversation. The fact that he chose to walk there instead of next to me indicated that he wasn't interested in talking, but I slowed my step until we were side by side anyway. I was thinking... that man... some of the things he said...
The things he said were ludicrous.
I'm not going to deny that. I was a little intrigued because he was quoting an old Earth playwright at one point. Caleb's brow furrowed as he looked my way. I hadn't expected him to recognize the quote, so I wasn't surprised. I pray thee, sing again. Mine ear is much enamored of thy note. I don't remember the play, but I'm pretty sure it's a quote from Shakespeare.
An Earth playwright. That must be pretty ancient history.
I've taken a lot of history courses over the years. What about you? Are you still...
What do you think?
Don't look at me like it was a silly question. A lot of people your age are still studying.
My age?
I mean, I merely assumed you're a lot older than me since you act like a cranky grandfather. He scowled, and I couldn't quite keep myself from laughing a little at the sour look on his face. Bickering with him helped ease the tension out of my shoulders. Well, get comfy. You're gonna get a lot of bickering in. Now that we were nearly back to my apartment, I was lamenting how I'd completely freaked out in front of so many people. I hoped recordings of that didn't make it to the news. That would be embarrassing, to say the least. It did occur to me at some point that I should be wary of leading a strange man back to where I lived, but building security was tight enough I didn't think it was going to be a problem. When we were a few doors down, I stopped and turned to Caleb, tipping my head towards the door. This is me. Caleb gave a curt nod. Thank you again. I know I keep saying it, but... I gave him a helpless smile. It doesn't get me back the quiet dinner I was hoping for, but I truly do appreciate your help today.
Don't worry about it. Just get inside. And if I were you, I'd stay there the rest of the night.
I think I'll do that. He turned away and walked back the way we'd come without saying anything else. I watched him for a few moments as he retreated. He was very abrupt and kind of cranky, but kind enough to walk me home. Definitely a strange man. I sighed and headed up to my flat, wondering where I'd order takeout from. So much for rest and relaxation. Ah, okay, so Jack and Kesa are hanging out. Good to know. Let's see. Oh, you. Okay, what am I doing with you? Okay, this doesn't actually matter, according to this. I'm gonna go talk to you, because sometimes we talk to you about the guys we meet. So, what's up, Ruben? Anything? No, nothing this time. Okay. Good to know. Do I not have to do anything particular with this either? Apparently not. Okay. Which one have I not done? I can't remember. I feel like I was saving the confident one, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, okay, I haven't done the confident one, so let's do that. That didn't matter right now. I just knew one thing. I wasn't getting in that car. I twisted, screamed, and tried to stomp the foot of the guy behind me. We had stopped just in front of the car. My attacker grabbed the back of my head, pushing it downward towards the open door. I freed one hand enough to brace it against the top edge of the car. At the same time, I jerked my head back as hard as I could. There was a startled grunt behind me and a flash of pain as my head connected with the guy's chin. Nice. I didn't have the leverage or space to elbow him in the side, so I clawed at his arm instead, grabbing and twisting to try to get him to let me go. All to no avail. With a low growl, the man caught my hand and pinned it behind my back. He pushed me flat against the side of the car, pinning me in place. His head dipped down as he hissed in a low voice. Cranky kidnapper.
Get in the car. We don't have time for this.
That voice was familiar. Caleb? Yep. I don't know if he hadn't been expecting me to recognize him or what, but there was a soft hiss of breath before he spoke again. What's going on?
I understand that you're afraid, but we really don't have time to sit down to a little coffee while we explain. We'll explain when we can. Ari, drive as soon as I get her in the car.
An unfamiliar voice responded from the front seat.
Understood.
Let go of me! I was desperately trying to catch someone's eye as people passed us. Why was everyone acting like this was normal? Caleb moved back just enough to have room to place a hand at the back of my head to force me down and into the car. My shins smacked against the edge of the door, and I fell face first into the seat, only to be moved out of the way seconds later. I barely heard the muttered apology as he got in behind me and slammed the door shut.
Go!
I was pressed back into the seat as Ari slammed his foot on the accelerator. Now alone with the two of them, I let out a shaky breath. Now tell me what's going on. What do you two want with me? Neither answered.
As expected, we are being tailed.
Tailed by who? Why? Caleb shot me an exasperated look, but ignored my questions as he leaned into the front seat.
How many?
Ari checked the console next to him, frowning.
At least 3 others are closing in on our location.
3 other what? Now that I had calmed down, I realized I should call for help. It was amazing how adrenaline could completely erode one's ability to think logically. Keeping one eye on the two of them, I tried to connect with the safety department through the net. Wait, what? I couldn't connect? That was impossible! Ari made a wild turn, sending me headlong into the door. I only just managed to avoid slamming my head into the window. There was a flash of worry across Caleb's face as he pulled me back away from the door.
Time for the contingency plan. Vaughn said she has an area cleared near here. Get us there. I am trying to do so.
I glanced behind us, realizing there was another car that appeared to be following us, just like they'd said. How did I get myself in the middle of some high-speed car chase? This was insane!
Change of plans. Get us out of here now, Ari. You realize if I just teleport us out, they'll see the distortion trail.
Teleport? Espers.
Then we have to get them off our tail first. I don't believe that's going to be possible. Then we need a way to mask the trail so they can't track us.
Ari made another sharp turn, this time sending me face first into Caleb. He wrapped an arm around me as he braced himself against the front seat so we wouldn't slide around as much. I struggled against him, but his grip was too tight to get away.
Well? Hold on. I have an idea.
Let go of me! I gave Caleb a shove, but it was like shoving a wall. He didn't even look my way. Instead, still holding me tightly, he moved us both aside as Ari apparently set the car to auto and climbed into the back seat with us. The car abruptly slammed into high gear. I could hear the high-pitched whine of the power coil as we sped up. Crashed into Caleb's chest as I was, I only caught a glimpse of what was outside the windscreen. We were on a long street with an intersection ahead, and across a building we were heading towards at full speed. What are you—
Hold on.
Wait, were they about to drive into that building at full speed? My head filled with the sound of the power coil trying to overload. I clapped both hands to my ears and screamed. There was a flash of light, and then everything stretched and twisted. I couldn't see anything or hear anything. It felt like my body was being ripped apart. My scream thinned into nothing. And then we were tumbling onto the stone floor like we'd been spit out of thin air. I staggered forward, free from Caleb, but running wasn't an option. My entire field of vision was spinning. I pressed the back of my hand to my mouth, trying to swallow down the taste of bile and will my stomach to untie itself. That felt like a space fold, a wormhole or something. There was no technology I knew of to create any sort of micro wormhole. Caleb and Ari seemed unfazed by what had just happened, as if they'd done it 1,000 times before. They were speaking, but their words were like an uncomfortable buzz in my head. I couldn't make out what they were saying. My stomach finally gave out and I gagged onto the floor, clutching my abdomen as it tied itself in painful knots. Everything tilted and I hit the ground, barely managing to catch myself. I was still choking on the taste of acid and whatever was left in my stomach. That finally got attention. There were footsteps and someone was crouching next to me. His hand passed gently over my back. A surprisingly gentle gesture from a damn kidnapper. Ari...
It's alright. Try to take deep breaths.
Instinct told me to scramble away, but my body wasn't exactly in prime scrambling condition. I stayed in place, squinting at the ground and wishing he'd go away.
The first jump can be a little disorienting. It'll pass soon.
Disorienting was an understatement. I just ignored him and tried to figure out what to do next. I just need to get a hold of myself. How had all this happened? And more importantly, what did these two men want with me? I was hardly a prime kidnapping target. I leaned over to rest my forehead against the cold ground, trying to take slow, deep breaths. The soft trickle of water echoed to me from somewhere in the building, but it was otherwise quiet. Where were we? How far had we traveled during that jump, as he called it? Rubble littered the floor, chunks of mortar, bits of twisted metal, pebbles, dust, and broken glass. There was also a strange smell, like wet soil and rot. From what I could see, it looked like a damaged vivarium or hydroponics center. There were some broken containers scattered around, and a few stray piles of dark soil, like the sort my father used at work. Tendrils of vines sneaked through the wreckage, as well as some tenacious plants that had taken over after the place was damaged. None of it was useful for escaping, but it gave me an idea where we could be. There had been a sector of Sosalis hit by a terrorist group last year. It had been a shock to everyone to have an attack so deep into New Albion. Repairs had stalled due to some kind of bureaucratic nonsense. Much of it was still damaged, and the entire sector was off-limits. Aside from a few security guards and municipal offices at the entrances, it was also supposed to be empty. I wasn't an expert on Espers, but I knew from Trent that most knights could only teleport short distances. Line of sight, maybe a few kilometers if they'd been to the location before. The damaged sector was around 12 kilometers from where I lived, so that held up. I tried to catch my breath and quell the nausea. Okay, good. That was good. If that's where we were, then getting back home wouldn't be an impossibility. If I could get away. That was the problematic part, though. I shifted slightly, turning my head just enough to get a look at Ari and Caleb. Ari was still right next to me, but Caleb was 2 or 3 meters away. I wasn't sure what type of Esper Caleb might be, but surely he was one if Ari was. And Ari was a knight, clearly. I had no reason to think these two were F-class, but I also had no reason to assume they weren't. Just because Ari could teleport, I couldn't assume his skill set would align to a normal knight. Which means I might also be much further from home. That could also explain the wormhole method of transport. I definitely think I would have heard of a knight that could use that method. That was insane. That was the method of transport we used for space travel, for crying out loud. I took a long breath. At least thinking through this had helped calm me down a little, but it didn't help answer my big question for the moment. How do you escape from Espers? I wasn't sure how to manage this. And what was more important, safety or escape? I didn't even know what they wanted with me. There was no point in running and just ending up injured. Or worse. For the time being, I tried to just stay still and listen to what they were saying as I stared at them. Or, well, mostly at their shoes. They have nice shoes for kidnappers.
No one else is around. I'll contact the tower and have the Moirai try to get a read on this place. But before that, care to explain why you brought us here? No one else knows who we're with. If they do manage to track us this far, they still won't be able to determine who managed to succeed in acquiring her.
I chewed my lip and kept one eye on them as I carefully pushed myself up. My legs were cramping, and something hard was jabbing into my knee. Even if I couldn't run yet, I didn't have to stay all huddled up. For now, I just... I doubled over as the nausea returned with a righteous vengeance. So, moving was a bad idea. Or a bad plan, I should say. I think that said plan. Yep. I can read. I gripped my abdomen hard enough, I was surprised I didn't push my stomach out through my spine.
Crimson knows who we are.
Ugh. Crimson?
He's the only one. So you're hoping that if no one knows which faction took her, they'll just fight amongst themselves for a while. That's a long shot.
It's nice going through this again because now I know more about what they're talking about. Like, this all has new context for me. I tried to listen in as I fought off the nausea, but none of it made sense. They were talking about factions and Crimson. All things that had nothing to do with me. I was a student!
We can't stay here. If Crimson doesn't find out where we went, someone else will. We aren't the only one with bishops. Let's go.
He joined me and Ari, stopping a half a meter or so away.
How is she? Not well. Morgan Leone, can you stand?
I managed to glare at him through my hair, gritting out an answer. Do I look like I can stand?
I believe that means no. I apologize for the discomfort. As I mentioned, the first jump is often rough for people. I wouldn't have subjected you to it if it hadn't been necessary. Okay, enough. We don't have time for you to play the knight. We need to move, even if it means one of us has to carry her. Caleb.
I winced as the buzzing in my head came back.
Get her to her feet, come on. I know how she feels, but we can't wait for her to recover. My apologies, Morgan.
Ari, clearly the more polite of the two, tried to pull me to my feet. I did not cooperate, only partly due to being ill, but mostly because I didn't want to go anywhere. The further we got from my home, the less likely I'd be able to get back. Why are you doing this? My parents can't pay a ransom. Neither one bothered to answer my question. I swallowed hard, wishing I at least had something to wash my mouth out with. As if in answer to my thoughts, a small flask appeared in the edge of my vision. I stared at it apprehensively.
Drink quickly. We need to leave.
But I'm stubborn, Ari. I reached for the flask, half intending to take it, and half intending to slap it out of his hand. Rinsing my mouth was more important than being defiant, but my hand betrayed me. I slapped it away, sending it spinning across the floor. Oops. Not that I felt too guilty about it. It was kind of satisfying, to be honest. There was silence. A split second later, a pair of hands grasped me by the arms and hauled me to my feet. I didn't have time to go limp the way I had with Ari. I came face to face with Caleb. Nausea washed over me, and I thought for a moment that I'd vomit on him. Unfortunately, this time my stomach managed to control itself.
I think she's well enough to handle a second jump. Caleb, Ari, we don't have time to wait. If she can act like that, she can handle it.
I ripped myself out of his arms and took a wobbly step away. No! No, I was not doing that again, if not because I had no intention of being kidnapped, then because I wasn't going to endure my insides turning themselves upside down again. What do you people even want with me? Ari stepped to my side again and set a hand on my shoulder.
Morgan.
No! You're going to take me away from here. What do you even want with me?
Morgan, we're here to help you. I know this must be difficult.
By kidnapping me and nearly killing me? He looked almost sad, and that just made me even angrier. This wasn't a situation where the villains got to be sympathetic.
We'll explain everything later. Let's go.
It's already later. He took me by the wrist, and this time I couldn't get away from him.
Caleb, get ready to make another jump, Ari. We don't have time.
Ari moved closer, and I just lost it. There was no time to worry about how I felt or who they were. I was already far from home, and going for another jump was out of the question. No! I clawed at Caleb's hand, trying to pry it off my wrist.
Stop! Calm down!
He tried to pin my free hand with his as I dug my nails into his fingers to pry them off. I somehow managed to drag my wrist from his grasp, only to have the other immediately captured. It was that moment I attacked full force, screaming, kicking, and clawing at anything I could reach.
Damn it! Ari!
He pinned my wrist, but I kicked out savagely, catching him awkwardly in the thigh. Let go! I wonder, because, like, Caleb's been, like, aggressively, you know, pinning her and grabbing her and, like, trying to wrestle her into position, if she hasn't, like, absorbed a lot of his rook abilities, and that's why she's able to, like, tangle toe-to-toe with him. Like, hiya! He's like, dang, this girl's strong. What the heck? Ari slipped his hands under my arms and started to drag me out of leg reach while Caleb cursed loudly. Apparently, neither of them had been expecting the outburst. I hadn't really been planning it either, but I might as well just go with it now. I twisted violently, trying to wrench myself from Ari. I was still watching Caleb out of the corner of my eye. He was definitely trying to work out how to get close enough without getting another kick, but he suddenly whipped his head to the left, his eyes going wide.
Ari, watch out!
I didn't get the chance to see what caught his attention before the pillar beside us exploded. Iron and steel will bend and bow. I screamed and ducked down when the pillar exploded. Ari grabbed me and dragged me back, spinning both of us around the edge of one of the other pillars. I stood there, heart hammering, back to stone, and face staring at Ari's Adam's apple as he shielded me from a volley of what sounded like weapons fire? Sort of? I didn't actually hear a weapon, just the sound of the building being damaged around us. Even sonic weapons made noise. I couldn't understand what was happening. Caleb, who had dived behind some nearby rubble, pulled out a small handgun and fired back at our attacker. I clapped my hands to my ears, sending up a panicked prayer as everything spiraled completely out of control. The ground less than half a meter from me exploded, shooting a spray of stone flecks up towards my face. At the same time, the entire building shook as if hit from the outside. Instinct kicked in and my body moved on its own. I had no idea where I was intending to run. I was just going to run. Away was as far as my brain got. Ari stepped in front of me, placing one arm across my shoulders to pin me in place while he fended off any debris that would have struck me. The building shook again, and another shower of debris fell on us from above. Was someone firing from outside? But why? Ari did his best to shield me, but I wasn't interested in being protected by him. He was a damn kidnapper. He didn't get to act chivalrous now. I tried to shove him away, but he kept my arms pinned. Let go!
Stay down.
A loud explosion rumbled through the floor, and several more shots struck the ground just beyond the pillar. Caleb fired back, though it didn't seem to do much good.
Is it just me, or is that a psi burst? It is not just you.
Who even is that? What? Ari calmly placed a hand over my mouth.
Will you shut up? They didn't exactly introduce themselves before they started flinging those things at us.
He stopped berating me only long enough to fire several shots at the attacker. I shoved Ari's hand off my face. Why are you shouting at me like that's my fault?
And there are two of them now. One has a sonic rifle. There appear to be more of them outside. Not sure if they're from the same faction. Yeah, I noticed that when they started trying to bring the whole damn place down on our heads. The moment they get over the wall out there, we're done.
Ari peered around the pillar.
Those two are shooting at each other for the moment. Perhaps we should take the opportunity to flee. Flee where? You teleport and we might as well send up a beacon saying who we are and where we're going. What was the point of even coming here if we do that?
For a moment it was so surreal, as if I was watching it all from the outside. Caleb and Ari were just having a conversation while Caleb exchanged weapons fire with two people, one of who was apparently an Esper shooting some sort of psi attack at us. I just couldn't get my head around it.
How the hell did they find us anyway? An adept team of bishops, no doubt.
Are you ever going to tell me what's happening? I let out another short scream as something hit the pillar Ari and I were behind, sending a terrifyingly powerful vibration through my body. Never mind. Not talking anymore.
Ari, get her the hell out of here! I think it would be unwise to leave you alone. You cannot... Get the queen out of here, Vaughn! That's an order!
Queen? No... No way.
I hope you realize you do not outrank me. Damn it, Ari! Just do it!
Caleb suddenly darted out from his hiding place to another pillar, to get a better vantage point from which to murder people, I assumed. He fired off more shots, leaving me wondering why he was using a weapon and not whatever psi abilities he possessed. I had the strangest feeling the sort of situation had played out with them many times. That this was just every day for them.
I need to get you to a safer location while they're distracted with each other. But I don't wish to attract attention, so we're going to run.
Wait, what? Okay, I think at this point we can safely skip. Because Caleb's doing his fight stuff. It's fun going through this again, because it's been a while. Does this one matter? No. We are confident and analytical. I want to save Rory. Always. I could fight with him. I'm gonna reason with him, though. I'm gonna break my personality for a little bit. Oh, hold on. Can I go back enough? Oh, no. Hecked up. Hold on. Through the power of edits, I will get us back to where we should have been. Okay. Turns out we, didn't... we didn't need to, go back. Caleb did not show up again after that, so we're good. Let's flee the area to a safer place. Hey, Jack. You came back. I'm gonna be cautious with you. Because Caleb would be. Can't trust you, Jack. Not this time. Alright, so we need to wait here. Yes. This was it. I'll read from here. I think it's a good spot. It was either trust Jack and go with him to the court, hoping he wasn't lying to me, or go with Ari and Caleb, who were a part of a group who, whatever else was true about them, had protected this planet and everyone on it for centuries. Sorry, Jack. I couldn't go with him. I would just wait here for Ari and Caleb to catch up to us. Righting my chair, I sat down and let my head flop onto the table with a groan. I lay there long enough to drift off before Jack returned.
Well, I'm glad to see you're still here.
The sound of his voice dragged me back into the world of the waking. I made a grunt of acknowledgement, opening my eyes to stare sideways at the wall next to our table. A little twinge of guilt gnawed at me. You said I wouldn't be able to steal your car anyway.
So you thought about trying it?
Yes.
I have to admit, I appreciate your honesty.
I don't know where I would go anyway. I don't know how to get home from here, and I don't know what I'd do when I got there. Like you said, more people will come after me. Which just meant the life I'd known until now was gone, no matter what I chose to do.
You okay?
Yeah. Just... headache.
Why don't we get you something to eat? And where the hell's the coffee?
His words cut off abruptly, causing me to look up.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
2 cups slid onto the table, but my eyes went wide when I saw who was the one putting them there. That hadn't taken long.
And don't believe everything this liar tells you.
He was sporting a fresh cut along the side of his eye, a spiderweb of blue and green branching out evidence of an expanded nanosystem busy regenerating the cells and healing the injury. But Caleb looked rather well for someone who'd had a building collapsed onto his head. Jack seemed rather unfazed by Caleb showing up. His baffling response to this development was to pick up his coffee and take a sip.
I'm almost glad to see you're still kicking, Jack. It's been so long since you've been a pain in the ass, I thought maybe your boss got sick of you and tossed your body in the waste. Not a chance. He's not like your boss. He doesn't just abandon people to die.
What the heck does that mean? Lots and lots of, miscommunication and not understanding the situation, Morgan. That's what that means. Caleb's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Instead, he shot a glare my way. I flinched.
As for you...
He reached for my wrist, and I instinctively tried to pull it away, even as he clamped some kind of device onto it. Good luck with that one. What the hell is this?
Psi inhibitor. Looks like he doesn't want another building dropped on his head.
Still gripping my wrist tightly, Caleb pulled me a little closer.
I hope you realize that stunt you pulled nearly got us killed. If Ari had been a second too late...
Let go! I don't even know how I did that, much less did I do it on purpose.
I'm not sure I believe you.
If you don't want me to knock a building on you, then maybe don't kidnap me. I slammed my free hand into his shoulder. He scowled at me, but I was tired and scared, and this stupid man was on the top of my list of people I was mad at. I'd already decided to go with them, even though I didn't like him. Why was he being a jerk? He grabbed my arm, pinning both wrists to the table in front of me. You guys are so violent with each other.
Will you be quiet?
I struggled to free myself. Let me go! I was vaguely aware of Jack sort of laughing under his breath, and I shot him a glare, suddenly wanting to hit him too. He attempted to not look amused. He failed. I glared at him, tears stinging my eyes because everything hurt and I was so tired of all this.
Don't start that crying nonsense.
Then don't kidnap me! The tears spilled over, and I wasn't sure if it was because he'd said not to, or if it was just because the energy had to go somewhere. And since I couldn't strangle anyone, I was going to cry.
Caleb, I may have warped the space around this table, but it would be better if you made some attempt to not create a disturbance.
I let out a frantic squeak as Ari appeared out of thin air. I mean, I knew he could do that, but that didn't mean it prepared me for him popping in and out of nothingness.
I'm not the one shouting.
Oh, really?
I knew you'd be lurking around somewhere, Styx.
That gave me a pause. Not because it was kind of a weird nickname, but also because it was a nickname at all. I got this feeling before, but do the three of you know each other?
I'm afraid so, Butterfly.
Ari looked down at me, taking in what I assumed was my rather woeful appearance. He shot Caleb a disparaging look.
You made her cry. Don't give me that. And stop acting like you're not involved. I, at least, have done nothing but help her out today. If you hadn't been skulking around, we wouldn't have had to take such drastic measures in the first place. If I hadn't been skulking around, you wouldn't have even known about her.
I shot him a poisoned look when he said that. So this is all your fault? You somehow neglected to tell me that earlier. If they had known about me because of him, did that mean everyone else had found me because of him?
Hey now, I told you I'm just trying to help you. Too bad that's a lie. Oh, and the two of you are here out of the kindness of your hearts. I don't have time for this. She's coming with us, Jack. And you can go back to your boss or go to hell. Your pick. And if I have no intention of letting you take her, you really think you can do anything about it?
Will you stop talking about me like I'm an object? I decide where I go and who I go there with. My voice rose to a shout and the window next to me rattled in the pain, though I wasn't sure if the others noticed.
I apologize for breaking into this discussion. The word from the tower is that several others are closing in on this location. They believe at least one of them is from Nyx. Others are unknown affiliation. It may be the woman from before.
Nyx? Just how many groups of psychos are after me right now?
Far too many for you to be safe with anyone but us.
I couldn't deny that seemed like it was the case.
Well, looks like you made up your mind.
I shot him an apologetic look.
Don't look at me like that, Butterfly. You have to do what's best for yourself. But unfortunately, so do I.
What? The three of them all moved at the same time, and all I caught was a blur of movement as Caleb tackled Jack and Ari yanked me out of my seat and towards him. A weapon went off and the back of my chair exploded. I crashed into Ari, who pulled me into an awkward, tangled semi-embrace. What had just happened? It took a moment to realize Jack had been the one to fire a weapon at me. What?
We're going.
Yeah. I wasn't sure why I felt so betrayed, but I didn't have time to think about it. Alright. Now we're out of there, so Caleb and Jack are having their fight. It's fun. Oops. Hold on. Wait. Not again. Okay. Anyway. Caleb was in the room when... I'm not replaying through everything again. Caleb was in the room when we woke up. We elbowed Magnus in the face. It was a good time. Alright, someone's opening the door. And then I threw a jar. Okay. I think that was Magnus talking there. Yeah, that's definitely Magnus talking. Let's see. Let's start right around here. That's probably a good spot.
So how long do you think the standoff will last?
The man with the amused-sounding voice.
She shouldn't be out of bed, awake or not. Much less tearing through the hall screaming and throwing things. It's a wonder she can even move. At the last check, she was still running a high fever, and her blood pressure was very nearly at the level of hypertensive crisis.
That was a different voice, one I hadn't heard before.
What were you fools doing that she slipped past you anyway? Well, she woke up pretty damn suddenly. We weren't expecting her to bolt up and knock one of us out.
She broke my glasses, too.
So now there were at least 3 people. The grumpy voice, the amused voice, and someone else.
You imbeciles. We need to get her out of there.
At the moment, she seems intent on throwing something at anyone who opens the door.
Am I supposed to believe that is enough to stop you lot of monsters?
A 4th voice broke in there.
If we startle her too much, she may...
I couldn't keep up anymore. I shut my eyes, though it didn't stop the feeling of everything spinning like crazy. The voices faded to a dull murmur. After some time, I had a vague awareness of the door opening again. I scowled and jerked my head up. The movement sent my vision reeling, and I had to brace myself against the nearby cabinet to stay upright. The figure silhouetted in the door... They were familiar. It was... the grumpy kidnapper. It unlocks Caleb's route. I would like to proceed. Hey, Grumpy. He stood there without speaking, just looking my way. I couldn't see his expression well, but I suspected I was being glared at. What was his name again? Kidnapper. So close. I tried to get to my feet, though I wasn't sure what I intended to do once I did. I wasn't having much luck, though.
It's Caleb, actually. But given the state you're in, maybe I should just be grateful you remember me at all.
He came towards me and, to my surprise, helped me stand. I wanted to push him away, but I just leaned on him and wished everything would stop spinning. I remember you kidnapped me. I doubted that had much bite, considering I was practically hugging him to stay on my feet.
As much as I would love to have yet another argument with you about that, now isn't the time. You need to come with me back to your room.
Hell no.
Then what do you intend to do exactly? You're barely standing. Your fever's through the roof. Fatigue can kill, I hope you realize.
It's your fault. This...
As wonderfully well expressed as that sentiment was.
He helped me to the bed that still half blocked the door. I leaned against it, very tempted to just lie down.
Do you even remember where you are, Morgan? Or that you volunteered to come here?
I gave him a suspicious look when he said that. Volunteered?
You're at Core Solaris, the headquarters of Endgame.
Wait, Endgame? A vague memory stirred. I was in an alley with the other man. With Ari. I love that she remembers Ari, but she's like, Kidnapper. There was a woman in white. I'm not sure. My head hurts so much. Caleb brushed my hair out of my eyes in a gesture that struck me as oddly gentle.
We're not going to hurt you. That was never the plan.
I don't feel well.
Oh.
He sighed and, without another word, lifted me into his arms. I made a feeble protest as he kicked the bed away from the door, then kicked the door all the way open. Too loud. He muttered a gruff apology as he carried me into the hall. Several others waited outside, but I shut my eyes against the side of them and decided maybe I'd just have a nap. They fell into step beside us, but when one of them tried to speak, Caleb cut him off.
I don't think she's up for conversation, so knock it off, Doc.
Why are you being nice to me? You were so rude before. Carrying me so gently, making others leave me alone. He definitely hadn't been this thoughtful before. Grumpy, rude kidnapper. Magnus just breaks out laughing. One of the other men snorted rather loudly before breaking into laughter.
Shut the hell up, Magnus, or I'll be the one elbowing you in the head this time.
That's more like the Caleb I remember.
You shut up too. Just go to sleep.
You go to sleep. I mumbled it half-heartedly into his shoulder, even though it didn't make sense. At this point, nothing else did either. The slow swaying of his body as he walked lulled me most of the way back to sleep. I was only somewhat aware of when he finally laid me on a bed. Vaguely aware of cool fingers sweeping my hair from my forehead again. And a soft word muttered to me before his footsteps retreated. I was pretty sure he just called me an idiot. I'm gonna enjoy this so much. But I was too tired to respond. I just laid there and let myself drift off to sleep.